Hi, you're listening to the Holistic Hippie RN. I'm Laurie Gibby, your host. Today I have with me Jenna Allen. She's a certified life coach, and we're here to talk about how some of her challenges created her path towards becoming a life coach and how she works towards guiding others down their path of building a more beautiful life. And so today we're also going to kind of touch on how building your own internal self-love and working on that helps you really, create a shift within your world and helps you break free of codependency and moving forward. So, Jenna, do you want to give me a little more backstory about you?
Hi, yes, my name is Jenna Allen, and I'm a certified life coach. And I have had to go through a lot of different challenges to get where I am. A lot of, just old partying, toxic friendships, toxic relationships, just, anger issues, all that stuff. And I've now been in therapy for about 3 years, and it has done amazing things. My new therapist that I've been with for a year is actually a holistic trauma coach, and she's helped me really just dive into my childhood traumas and just like things that I've needed to overcome. And so I feel like I'm on the right track with that now. So
Yeah, definitely. I love that. I feel like everyone should have some sort of coaching or therapy available to them because there's so much that you can dive into and release from that. It's really cool.
oh
So,
yeah.
what would you say how would you describe how you realized you needed to, dive into yourself, build up loving yourself, and how that helped you break free of codependency?
So I had this people pleasing problem within myself, and I ended up in really unhealthy codependent friendships and relationships. And I didn't learn until I hit my rock bottom, which was with one of my ex best friends. And it just kind of like I had all this built up anger, and I could never really be myself in like my friendships. And I just kind of found I was lying to people a lot because I was people pleasing, and I was like, I have to hide who I am. And I ended up having all that pent up resentment and anger. And so that was kind of like the rock bottom for me, where I didn't want to live like that anymore. And as soon as my truth came out, I lost everyone. But, now I feel like with the work and like allowing myself to really like be truthful about who I am and what I love and what I need and all that stuff, like has really allowed me to create and like attract healthier friendships, which has really been like something I've been really proud of, because now I can say that I actually have like a healthy, like best friend. Like I actually have like healthy friendships now, which is so nice.
Yeah, I've noticed how when you start doing more of the self-care work and
Yeah.
raising your vibration, it sheds kind of those people who aren't contributing to that. Would
Yeah.
you say that there was like a specific moment that you really were like, "Oh, like I need to make a change in my life for myself?"
When I was self-harming,
Hmm.
in the sense of like I would like hit myself because I was so angry. And like just being in an environment with emotional abuse and manipulation, I think just really got to me. And like having family kind of say something, be a little concerned, and like just starting to fight with like people I love. And I think it was all of it really that spiraled that just made me realize I want to get out of here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What would you say was your first step that you took towards overcoming this challenge and like stepping into, really working on yourself?
I would say moving to a different province, honestly. I mean, my beginning of my growth journey was actually really messy, and like I wasn't that much better. But I think just kind of like moving to a different province, like moving to Alberta for like all by myself, was probably like it was a big step for me because I only had my sister living there. So
Mhm.
it was just a really big challenge being away from like going from having so many friends to having basically nobody except for my unhealthy relationship at the time. So, but I mean, I would say now, like in the last year, I've done the most work on myself, and compared to like that first year where I moved, but I think that I needed to move regardless, even if it was really messy.
Yeah, a lot of times it kind of gets a little more chaotic um, when you first start that, like breaking free of your old ties.
Yeah.
What would you say that is like um what would you say you do now to maintain like just that inner balance that you started creating?
So I meditate, like I do I do like the whole law of attraction stuff as well. And I'll like really like one thing that I do, even like whether I'm working or not, is I really prioritize like one day to myself a week
Mhm.
where I'm just like I really prioritize my mental health now, because if I don't, I will get overwhelmed and I won't be the best version of myself. And I'm just overall a lot more like honest and like open and like not afraid to just really truly be who I am. And I'm super confident with who I am now. And like, I never had that before because I always like allowed people to tear me down. Whereas now it's just, my circle's very small and I'm very mindful of who I let in my life. And I think that self-love is one of like those things where you kind of just have a mix of things,
Yeah.
that help you, and it's just those little habits that can really change your life.
Yeah. Would you say you've noticed kind of like how when you started doing more inner work, your outer world started shifting and like what would you say that started to look like? You said, I mean, I know you said how you moved to a place where you knew no one, but would you say, how would you describe how working on yourself actually created a different world than redrawing in more toxic relationships?
I mean, I think it's a bit of good and messy, really. Like I think it's one of those things where you will lose people, and I think that that's what I always try to be honest with people about, is like when you do the work, you are going to lose the wrong people, and it hurts at first, but like when you're actually in it and you've done the work, you will, like I know for me, like I've noticed such better friendships in my life, and like just healthier relationships with my parents, like just because like I've done the work in therapy, and like it's just, yeah, I think it's more, the most obvious one is just like my relationships and my friendships have really changed, and like, it's so clear too, like it's just so obvious that like I've attracted healthier, and I also just I don't over like, I try not to force things anymore either, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say that would you say you started setting more boundaries and that kind of like how would you describe preventing more toxic relationships forming? Like kind of breaking the habit
Definitely.
of the build, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I actually recommend anyone who is like looking for friendship specifically to download Bumble BFF. I use Bumble BFF, and it's one of those things where you can kind of meet people and
Mhm.
like go for coffee, but like what I do is I think the most important thing when you're meeting friends is to talk about your values, your beliefs. What are you looking, like kind of treat it like it's a relationship. What are you looking for in a friendship? You
Mhm.
know, what are your boundaries and what do you like? What do you don't like? And I just think like having those conversations is so important, because if you don't have those conversations, you're not really going to know if you're going to be like a compatible friend or not. So
Mhm.
for me, that's something I've done, is like I won't waste my time on anyone whose values don't somewhat align with mine. You know what I mean? I guess it depends on the person. Like if there's like mutual respect, it might be a little different. But like for me, it's just I really want to attract people that are all about like business and growth, and and just like, we don't have to believe in the same things, but like it would be cool to have like someone that's like, all about boundaries and growth and all that stuff. Like my best friend is actually like, me and her, like, we have boundaries, and we're both passionate about growth, but like we've been friends for like 3 years. But I just think it's important to discuss those topics like when you're meeting somebody.
Oh yeah, for sure. It can really, you start seeing the red flags, I think, a lot sooner when you bring up
Yeah.
those conversations.
Yeah.
And that just serves as like another layer of protection for yourself, even.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Plus,
For
it's
sure.
kind of like, what is it? When the five people that you hang out with the most are
Yeah.
the people that you're the most like. So it's good to kind
Yeah.
of filter out the other noise.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So how would you say, this has changed your approach, I guess, in coaching people? Like, how would you say this kind of molded your approach to coaching others?
Probably because I'm just more myself and
Mhm.
just authentic and like real. And one of the things that like my clients love is I share what I'm going through. Like we're doing it for me when I have a client, like we're in this together. That's my approach. It's like you're my client, your needs are a priority to me, your values are a priority to me. And like for me, it's just like we're a team. It's cool because I can build relationships and friendship with my clients. You know what I mean? Like genuine friendship. So it's like nice because it's like there's that, like you kind of get comfortable enough where you're like, hey, you know what? You're not alone. I'm going through this too. Or so that's my approach is that we're in this together. We're a team. I've got your back,
Mhm.
right? Because that is my priority when I'm coaching people. And just like I think there's something so empowering about having a coach that is vulnerable too, and that is like practice what they're preaching. You know what I mean? Like if you're going to show up for your clients, you've got to show up for yourself. And I think that's my other motivation to really work on myself and like continue to thrive and be good, like just be the best person I can be because I want to offer the best like advice and guidance to my clients.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I love that. And it's kind of like it not only holds them accountable, but it also holds you accountable. Like you
Yeah.
said, be the best that you can be. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if you could give someone a piece of advice of what they can do to, really like practice more self-love, like what would be one thing that would you would say would be a small step but a big step towards diving deep into themselves and start seeing like how they would like to shape themselves by loving themselves more?
I think I always say the same to everybody. The first step is self-awareness. Like honestly, like really be ready to sit in your own toxic traits and be like, hey, this has got to change. Like really, and that's where I think a lot of people struggle is they're not ready to see their own problems and you know what I'm saying? Like they're not ready to see themselves, and it's really starts within you. You can't really go on a path of growth without reflecting on yourself first. And that was my first step is like really diving deep within myself.
Yeah, that's great
Yeah.
advice
Yeah.
because I think a lot of times people jump to, different tools and before they're ready to see themselves. And when they take the time to look at themselves and what they, their own attributes, but also how that's been drawing in the wrong kind of people, that one, it helps them break free a lot more quickly. And two, it helps them recognize things when if it starts coming back to them, if those types of relations starts populating, it's like, oh, wait, you know, what like I need to be aware of what actions I'm doing, how I'm being
Yeah.
to draw in people like this that I don't really
Yeah.
want in my life. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great one.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think that's so important.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add about just, how,
Um,
yeah.
I think it's also just like, and this is a hard one because I used to struggle with it too, but like it's really hard. Like, and I know it's easier said than done because it took me a while to really get it, but um getting out of that victim mentality is so important. Like, yes, you're allowed to have compassion for yourself. You're allowed to have moments where you're like, hey, that was shitty that I went through that.
Mhm.
But like when we're in that victim mentality, it's like we're not giving ourselves the time to like look within and have more self-control over things in our life. And like so that's like I did that for many years. Like because I would always end up in these toxic friendships, and then I wouldn't set boundaries, and then I would complain that they were toxic for me. So that's something I would say in the past year is something I've really really like. I mean, I'm not perfect, but I definitely that has been boundaries are actually my current thing I'm working on. Like I've gotten better,
Mhm.
but boundaries are my challenge. They always have been. I
Mhm.
think they like are a lot of people's challenges because you're always scared of somebody's reaction, but like I'm getting better, like I'm able to set boundaries with my family and my friends, and it has helped, but it's something I'm still working through. Yeah.
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 What would you say when you realize you need to set a boundary? What are some actions that you can take?
So one of the things I did recently is like I asked my friend if she has a space to set boundaries, and
Mhm.
if she has a space to hear, like that's something super important. You got to make sure the person's in the right mindset to be able to set those boundaries. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really great one. Otherwise, they
Yeah.
kind of don't hear you.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And would you say, as far as like with people pleasing or codependency, um, how has that shifted for you? How have you broken free out of that?
So codependency has been one of my biggest challenges, and it's one of the reasons why I've always gone in and out of relationships. It's not something I'm proud of, but like codependency does has come from my childhood.
Mhm.
I didn't realize it at the time when I first started dating. I was like, I just want a boyfriend, like I just want the love of my life. I want to get married. Like, I didn't think anything of it. But then when I was in these relationships with men that were, abusive, in like, I mean, my most recent relationship was not abusive at all, but he's actually a really good guy. But we just weren't compatible. There was no effort or anything there, but like it's one of those things where codependency can really, really affect your life if it's not dealt with. And I ended up reading a book called Codependency No More by Melody Beattie, I think. Yeah. And that really helped me understand codependency more. And I mean, everybody deals with their stuff differently. Like I wouldn't I don't know, it's weird because I feel like my codependency, like the book really helped, but I think therapy has really helped me, like with my codependency and like really doing that inner work to self-love because now that I'm single and I'm in a place where it's like I won't settle, it's like I don't need to be with anybody. And for so long, that was one of my goals. I wanted to feel okay on my own. And even though I would jump into relationships, there was that inner part of me that craved that self-love, that craved, hey, I want to be on my own. I want to be okay. And this past relationship actually is part of the reason I don't have codependency anymore because he was super independent and had a really hard time kind of planning date nights. Like he wouldn't prioritize us,
Mhm.
which was a curse and a blessing. It was a blessing in the sense of he really, really helped me learn how to take care of myself in that relationship because there was not much effort, I had to learn how to do things on my own in that relationship. Right? So that independence kind of broke the codependency,
Mhm.
which is why I'm thankful for that relationship. But now I'm in a place where I'm like, I'm okay on my own. So I think it's also having like the right people to like push you, I think is important. And like, I really do like, I don't see relationships as necessarily a bad thing much anymore because they teach us something.
Mhm.
And so like obviously like untoxic and abusive relationships are not good, but like even just like normal relationships that are not necessarily your partner, like not your true love, but
Mhm.
are just people that come into your life to teach you things. And like this past relationship has really changed me. Like even my best friend said, she's like, you are such a different person now than you were when you first met him. And that's where it's like it was hard to break up, but like I almost feel like I needed to be with him in
Mhm.
order to learn how to love myself because of the dynamic of the relationship. So yeah, does that make sense?
Oh, totally. It makes
Yeah.
me think of how it's kind of like, everyone comes in for everyone that you meet is a lesson that you learn. Even if it's like a grocery store clerk, there's probably something you've learned. And so
Yeah.
when you're in the relationship, it's like it's a big part of your life. You're with them
Yeah.
quite a bit. And as far as, someone who teaches you to be more independent, it's
Yeah.
also teaching you to dive more into yourself and create that self-love. And, your biggest relationship is with yourself. So
Yeah.
when you start putting yourself first, it makes sense that you would start breaking the codependency. And a
Yeah.
relationship like that would teach you that, which is, like you said, it's something you needed to learn because now you prioritize yourself. So your next relationship, you're more likely to, you know, like be that independent person that
Yeah.
creates a really balanced relationship. You'll draw in that
Yeah.
type of person because it sounds
Yeah.
like you drew in someone who was more aligned with what you were working towards, and you
Yeah.
learned more independence as a result, and
Yeah.
you started breaking out of that codependency. So that
Yeah.
totally makes sense to me. I love
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, no, and I think it's also like it's it was hard at the end of the day, like in some ways, because when you're in a relationship and you care about someone and they're not putting an effort, I think that's one of the reasons why we broke up. But
that.
like I said, it was a good thing and it was hard. It was a good thing for me, but not for the relationship, because I know, like, I've seen a healthy relationship, and I do believe that it does take work,
Mhm.
and unfortunately I was the one that was putting more work than, like, we just grew apart, like there was no, like, our lives just don't align, and that's kind of what happened, like why we just aren't really together, right?
Mhm.
But then I also try to be thankful of, like, but his lack of effort has made me love myself. So it's like,
Right.
looking at the pros and the cons.
Right. And it just builds into you practicing more of the self-love
Yeah.
instead of kind of practicing the not that it's not loving them, but it gives you the practice for creating a better relationship with yourself. So
Yeah.
that way you're ready to create a balanced relationship with someone else. And like you said, like you recognize those flags
Yeah.
earlier on. Like I feel
Yeah.
like we always see the flags a lot earlier. Like you said,
Yeah.
you had a history of toxic relationships, and when you started doing the inner work, you started seeing how you wanted to shift out of that, and it shifted you out of that and brought someone in that might not have been as aligned as you would have liked, but you learn the lessons, and then you get to move on towards the balanced relationship that you're more likely to bring in, which I think that's huge for people to learn. And I think it also, when you're more mindful about the self-care, you're also, you wind up being more mindful in your relationship, and
Yeah.
that person that is balanced with you is also mindful about, like you said, like dedicating the time that you would like in your
Yeah.
relationship, and
Yeah.
dedicating all of those factors that you would like to see in a relationship. And the
Yeah.
same goes for friendships that you create, because
Yeah.
like you said, creating toxic friendships when you're in that codependent state, then it's like you're giving and giving, and they're
Yeah.
returning toxicity. And so I think that's a really cool timeline that you have, in the sense of like this building out of what was not healthy for you and recognizing it, and suddenly becoming aware of like, okay, this is the work I would like to do.
Yeah.
And then you started doing it. So you brought in something that was way leveled up from that, but you still are ready to like really enjoy being with yourself. That's, we're
Yeah.
with ourselves our entire lives. So we
Yeah.
want to have a great relationship with ourselves. And
Yeah.
I think that's such a great thing when you're single, to strengthen that. So
Yeah.
you don't lose yourself in the next
Yeah.
relationship, especially when you
Yeah.
have a history of codependence. I think that's awesome. And I
Thank
think,
you.
and so that experience guided you to being a life coach, kind of like that timeline, I would say, right?
Yeah, I became a life coach when I was already in a relationship with him. I would say I've been at it for just over a year now.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And have you noticed kind of like your overcoming your challenges has help play into how you coach others into overcoming their challenges?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things too, is like life coaching and like just motivational speaking and like just being a good inspiration is like something I'm so passionate about. And like, honestly, and I say this to everyone too, it's so, like, I'm literally like, I live in my mindset. Like, I am the exact same in person that I am, like, everything that I talk about on podcast, on like my Instagram, it's me. It is who I am. Like, even people that have met me, they're like, you're literally the same. And like, it's just, I'm so passionate about it that it's who I am. Like, it's within me. And it's just like,
Mhm.
I don't know, like, I love meeting people. I love talking about deep stuff. Like, it's just, I'm such a people person. And like, when I went on a trip in early November, like one of my dream trips, and I met like 30 people, like I noticed like this is another thing I kind of noticed with like since I've done the work is I attracted so many people. Like people were like, "You're famous here because of your TikTok videos." Like people were just kind of like drawn to me, which was kind of cool because it's like I love that energy and I just love meeting new people. And so it was really cool to have that experience and to just see that like my light and like my work is now like kind of just like shining and it's like what's the word? Like it's just drawing people in, which is cool because I'm like, I get to make new friends, I get to meet people. Like I genuinely love meeting new people, especially when I'm traveling. And
Mhm.
I even made a friend down there. Like I made a couple friends. So it's like whenever I go back, I have people I can now visit. Like it's just who I am. Like I literally like live and breathe like everything that I talk about. So
Yeah, when you up level like that, you really become magnetic when like you're standing in that authenticity and
yeah,
that leveled up energy, that high vibe energy, then it's just
yeah,
magnetic. It draws people in. And that's
yeah,
awesome. It sounds like you created the trip that you wanted to go on. And as a result, you've made some really amazing connections.
yeah. Yeah, it was so cool. It was just so cool. Like I enjoyed it. And so nice there too. Everyone was so friendly. So I'm like, I'm going back. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. So how can we
Yeah.
find you on your social media? How can we
Yeah.
find you?
Instagram, TikTok are like, and you could email me, but like I'm mainly on my TikTok and Instagram. Like that's where I do most of my work. And like I guess Facebook. Yeah. I guess Facebook is kind of yeah. Facebook I don't always use for my life coaching, I guess. It's more just I like to post a lot of quotes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like Facebook in the sense of more of like the family friend connection, but
Yeah.
like nice to have one like people are drawn to different specific
Yeah.
social medias and I feel like
Yeah.
business is drawn to one, like run with it.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. And I'll include your Instagram and TikTok information below so people can find you.
Perfect.
Thank you so
Thank you
much for
so much.
being on this today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Is there one last thing you would like to tell anyone or?
No, just keep going, keep growing.
Absolutely. I love that. Well, take care and until next time.
Thank you.